Well, good morning, everyone. It's good to see everybody. I have missed a couple of BMA events, and so I have to come back and see just how old everybody's gotten.
Older,
mature.
Before I give my report, I just wanted to let you know, just as this is just an administrative thing, Sister Wilson brought some little breads back there, and I'm just letting you know that they're really, really bad, so don't even bother with them. Just leave them to me, I'll take care of them later on. All right? I'll dispose of them, yes, in a very good way. And another commercial, or a commercial. I'm serving with Global Grace Fellowship. It was called Go Ye Fellowship. And you know, when you go to change a name, it's a process. It takes a while. And so we now have our new trifolds and Global Grace Fellowship. And if you're good and you eat your vegetables, you can have 1 or 2 or 3 or however many of these you might be able to use. And we also have some pins for you. Right. So just see me later on, and I can give you some of that. I am thankful, you know, looking back on serving the Lord, particularly with the BMA, being a chaplain for so many years. And then now in this opportunity to do the international field director for Global Grace Fellowship, I'm allowed to, or I'm blessed to go to different parts of the world and see some of the sites where our missionaries are working and seeing what God is doing. And it's an exciting time to see what God is doing around the world. And then I come back to the U.S. and it's a little bit of a disappointment because I see, you know, like you mentioned, Brother Joel, there's just a lack of enthusiasm, if nothing else, within the church to do those things that God has called us to do. Our theme having to do with standing, I remembered that in the military there's another term that we use, is a stand down. Stand down. When you're doing something and somebody superior rank of you says, okay, stand down, you know, it means relax, take it easy, don't get so excited. And I think that's part of what has happened to the church today, is that we have seen God do so many things that somebody somewhere said or thought to themselves, it's time to stand down. And it's not time to stand down. It's time to stand up. It's time to get moving. It's time to do those things that God has told us to do. You know, I was reading scriptures and, you know, Abram was voluntold to leave his country, to leave his family, to leave his father's house, to go to a new land. You know, you read further on and you see Jonah was voluntold to go to Nineveh. You know, now the Apostle Paul did receive a Macedonian call, but, you know, the disciples were voluntold to go into the whole world and preach the gospel and to make disciples of all the nations. For some reason, we all take Paul's call as the standard. We won't make a move unless we are called. Whereas if you read the scriptures, it seems like most of these people were voluntold to go and do these things. The word nations really stands for people groups. And I have in my files a map of Nigeria, and it is a nation. We look at it, this is the nation of Nigeria. But when you break it down into people groups, there are hundreds of people groups just in the nation of Nigeria. There are unreached people groups out there that have yet to hear the gospel. And I used to, you know, I heard this story long ago about some fellow went up to some guy and says, do you know Jesus? And he says, no, but he might be in the next town over. And I thought, oh, that's kind of cute and all of that. But it's not. And there's people still out there just like that have never heard of Jesus. Never heard the name of Jesus. And the American church sends about 1 penny out of every dollar to try to reach these unreached people groups. So, yes, I'm enthusiastic about what I do and being able to see what God is doing among the refugees in Germany, for instance, when we say so many things, we hear so many things about how difficult it is and how Germany's being overrun by refugees, and I'm going over there visiting missionaries, and they say, yeah, they're hungry for the gospel because they're out of that Islamic bondage, and they're wanting to hear about Jesus Christ. And so that's exciting. It's exciting when I go to Indonesia and see, particularly as it relates to Global Grace, what happened there in the early 30s and how that work has grown. In fact, I went there about 3 years ago, and I was really, really, really impressed. Sandy went with me. We were just blown out of the water. It was so good. And then since that time, we got a new executive director in the organization, and I said, I got to take him to Indonesia. He's got to see this and see what has happened in the work that started there. I mean, it started way back when, and there's just hundreds and hundreds of churches over there that have come up under their own people. And so Sandy didn't go with us this time, so we were going out on to a town.
You're loud.
I'm too loud for you? I was trying to, okay.
I know, no, keep going. You're hurting our ears, but go ahead.
I'm hurting your ears?
He's fixing it. He's fixing it.
Go ahead.
I don't know if it's necessary, I'm just hurting her ears.
No.
Oh my, okay.
Go ahead.
I'll pay for that later. Anyway, so we're going down this road. We're going to go to a town or somewhere out in the boonies somewhere. And you know how it is in some of these third world countries. Time means nothing.
Yes.
It's 2 hours to get there. You're going to be there in 5. And they think you're weird because you're wondering why you're not there yet. Well, we're going out there and we had one of those trips. And we went to this area. And apparently, the name of the district, or what we might call the county, is the same name as the town. So when we got up to the edge of it, there was a sign that said, Smithville or whatever, the name of the town was. And so my friend, the executive director, was with me, and he says, well, we're here. Now we've been going forever. We're here. And so we went on, and we kept driving through, and I forgot to mention the craters, the moon craters that were part of the road. We're going down and up all this so-called road. And all of a sudden, we're out of the town. We're out of the area. Because we went through this little town. And he says, well, wait a minute, I thought we were here. And our host said, yes, we are here. But we're not there yet. By this time we've been there long enough to say nothing seems to make sense. We're here, but we're not there. And we started playing with that. And that's how it is with the work that's set before us. We are here, but we're not there yet. The gospel has yet to reach all of the nations of the world, all of the unreached people groups. And we've done a lot of things, and we can look back and say, wow, isn't God wonderful? And He's used us as instruments in His hand. And that's great. We're here. We're not there yet. And you can apply that almost to any part of your life. You're a lot different now than you were 10 years ago. Because you've grown, right? You've matured. And you're here. But you're not there yet. You're not where God voluntold you to be yet. And so I'm encouraged at what I'm seeing around the world. I'm encouraged by groups such as Global Grace. We're not the only one out there that are helping missionaries to do what God has voluntold them to do. But I just want us to go away from this realizing that even though we're not there yet, we still got the time to get there. God is not done with us yet. We just need to be obedient. And oh, by the way, there are organizations that won't send families out with teenagers because, they might be traumatized or something. you know, we take it case by case, but I want to say to you that there are people in our churches that have been voluntold to go and preach the gospel. And maybe what it takes is for us to give them a little kick in the rear and saying, do what God told you to do. And when you find those people, send them to me. Thank you. God bless you.